think you're a very evil man. And I don't know what was hurting in you.
And I don't care. Because that's a feeling thing. You're staying with thinking.
And I don't care. And I think you're an evil man. I think you're a sick man.
And tell him what you're thinking about you.
And I think I've done a damn good job in my life.
Tell him some more about what you think about the good job you've done.
I've done a real good job in my life of getting by the shit that I dealt with you. And of raising 3 good kids. And of doing a good job of raising 3 kids. That's the way I want to put it.
How's your sex life?
It's really good.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it really is. And,
congratulations.
I feel very whole about my sex life.
Yeah, congratulations.
In a lot of ways, and feel good about that. And
you could have let this whole business screw up your sex life, and you didn't.
Yeah. And you used to be an important man to me, and you're not an important man to me anymore.
Good. Say that one again.
You used to be an important person in my life. And you're not an important person anymore.
How did you move from the point of his being important to the point of his not being important?
By becoming aware that the only time it wasn't just that he was being abusive when he was actually physically abusing me, but becoming aware the whole relationship was abusive.
Tell him about that.
No, I understand that when you came around, it wasn't for us, it was for you. That you didn't come to see me, you came to use me.
That must have been a sad piece of knowledge when you let yourself know that.
Yeah.
Also a very healthy piece of knowledge.
Yeah.
Is there anything more that's important for you to do with this, with him?
Again, have you?
I just think where my mother was in this, and she didn't know, and she doesn't know. And I keep wondering if at some level she wasn't aware. I don't think so. I just think that it was a naivete for her. It was a help for her, for me to have some sort of man in my life. That was,
so you're willing not to tell her?
Yeah.
Okay, so bring your brother in. And what do you want to say to your brother? Sounds like you've come a long way.
When Mary asked you that question, you stuck your tongue out.
I wanted to bite it.
What's that mean?
I don't know what it means. I love you.
And it's okay to tell him I'm sad.
Oh, God, I'm sad with you.
Tell him how come you're more sad for him in ways than you are for you.
If you lost a kid last year.
It's okay for you to think right now.
Just lives might have been different somehow.
That's magic.
Tell him how you think it would be different.
We only do.
That's magic.
We only do about life. We're so scared of it. We were so scared all the time.
How would you be a different human being if this hadn't happened? Because it sounds to me like you're a very lovely, very warm, very open human being now, that you've survived this.
I wouldn't have gone through life so scared.
The past would have been easier.
Yeah, the past would have been
And the
easier,
present
and I
would have-
still scare myself.
Okay.
Uh,
And how about, and for him?
I know you wouldn't have gone through your life so scared and so tight. And somehow what happened with the child was a wedge between us, and I don't understand. I don't know how.
I think you know how.
I didn't protect you. How we didn't share with one another with a secret we kept.
That's how. See, you do know.
We couldn't share that shame with one another.
You have already done that.
Yeah.
Would you tell him I'm not letting anybody abuse me again?
Yeah. Well, in a minute, I must leave. I want to just feel comfortable being with them without the shame.
Tell him that.
I want to feel comfortable being with you without the shame.
Yeah.
The shame for something that you had nothing to do with.
Yeah,
Will you tell him
it's just
we have nothing to be ashamed of?
Yeah.
Because that's what you're really not sure about. Will you tell him that?
no, nothing to be ashamed of. We don't have to be ashamed we were sexually abused. And we don't have to be ashamed of our poverty. And we don't have to be ashamed of our alcoholism. And we don't have to be ashamed of any of that at all. And I love you.
Right. Hey, that's wonderful. Now will you tell him what you two have to be proud of?
I'm not going to let any shame come between us anymore.
Great. Will you tell him what you two have to be proud of?
We have to be proud of that we're alive and we stopped drinking.
How long ago did you stop?
8 years.
Good for you.
Would you be willing to say that with some pride?
Yeah.
8 years ago. Well,
And
I don't have to be ashamed of being alive.
Right. That's important. Say that again.
I don't have to be ashamed of being alive.
I noticed you been saying I don't have to be, I don't have to be, I
I'm
don't
not
have to be.
ashamed of being alive.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed of being alive. And I hope you're not either.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be ashamed, and I don't want there to be any shame between us.
Great.
There's not going to be any shame
Good.
on my part.
Good.
Yeah.
Would you also tell him that you're not ashamed of your sexuality?
Yeah. And I'm not ashamed of my manhood. I'm not ashamed of my sexuality.
True?
Yeah. I'm not ashamed of being a man.
Yeah.
Good.
Now try I'm proud.
And I'm proud of being a man. Yeah. It's good to be a man. Without shame.
Lovely.
And I'm not letting anybody ever abuse me again.
No way. No way.
Tell that to him.
Yeah. And I'm not letting anyone ever abuse me again. And
In any way.
nobody's going to abuse me again.
In
at
any
all.
way.
How? In any way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Feel solid with that?
Yeah.
Do you hug each other?
We do in a very tentative way. We've already seen one another on very intermittent times, 3-5 years apart. But he's coming out to visit next month.
Okay, I don't
And I'm
usually
looking
do
forward
this, but
to
would you
that.
practice hugging? Would you be willing to hug him? Now that you're proud of your manhood, no one's going to abuse you. Practice a hug.
I love you. Thank you. Thank you.
Neat.
I'm unplugged. I think that's okay.
Wonderful anchor. You're unplugged.
Would you be willing simply to say that, because they might not have gotten it?
I'm unplugged.
Bob and Mary, I found this piece particularly poignant and very, very moving. And I thought it it just demonstrated so marvelous, I mean, so poignantly, really, the impact of the scars on his life and of his guilt and shame and how that interfered with his relationship with his brother and still interferes with his relationships with men.
I made contact with this guy by telling him to tell me that he wouldn't let me violate him, abuse him. I had a strong hunch he's going to have a very hard time with this piece of work, just the way he started. And I thought very quickly to myself, what can I do that can facilitate his getting into this work feeling safe about it? And the safest thing I could think of for him to do was to take his own position of strength that he wouldn't let me bother him, touch him. And I said sexually abuse him there, but I was talking about all kinds of abuse at the same time. And that's why I started the way I did.
That was the first technical question I was going to ask.
I thought it might be. It was kind of a rare thing to do.
Yeah.
That was my contact with him.
Mary, I wonder if you'd say a little more about why you decided to have him put the man on the floor and tell him what he was thinking and really go with that whole piece around thinking.
Yes, he was the one who brought up thinking, that his major injunction which he'd given himself was don't think. And that invaded a lot of areas in his life, not just the sexual, but it's don't think about sex. So because he brought that up, I wanted to make a point in this piece of work that he could recognize that he could both suffer and think at the same time.
When he first brought up the issue with his brother and his feeling so responsible for his brother, you stayed with him, and I thought it was probably because you didn't want him to be working for his brother instead of for himself.
Right.
But
and I knew I'd go back to his brother if he didn't.
Okay.
But at that point, I wanted him to stay cleanly with what he felt and what he thought.
Would you say this is a classic piece of redecision work?
I would say more that it's a classic goodbye piece. But the main thing he did is he said, I became unplugged from my past.
That's right. And that was a really strong anchor, which I think was also a redecision.
Yeah, it was a
The
goodbye.
I'm unplugged.
I'm unplugged. It was marvelously creative, you know, and intuitive and non-ambivalent, and everybody knew exactly what he meant. And I think that was the redecision. It was both an anchor and a redecision at the same time. You got to keep remembering that the redecision the guy made from free child. It can be in the present, in the past, in the future, as long as it's free child. And that was a delightful free child.
Yeah, it was. It's really a delight for me to be part of this interview and to be part of preserving the legacy of your work, because your work has meant a lot to me personally, and I know how many lives you've touched. So,
Thanks.
yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's been fun.
Yes, thank you.
I'm going to do some more.
And thanks to Pete.
For further study, consult the Goulding books, Changing Lives Through Redecision Therapy, The Power is in the Patient, Redecision Therapy, Expanded Perspectives, and Who's Been Living in Your Head?